Okay, so now we're going to talk about what happens when no oxygen is present. Last time we talked about when oxygen is present, and there's a whole process. We made a whole bunch of ATP. Because remember when oxygen came in that last stage, and that's when it really revs up the ATP. Well, now we're going to talk about when oxygen isn't present. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I didn't show my responses. When oxygen is not present, it is called anaerobic respiration. You're right. I knew you were smart. The balloon said otherwise, but I knew you were smart. I argued with the balloon on your behalf. So, yes, anaerobic, AN, the prefix AN, if you're reading stuff, means no or without. So just in future, whenever you're reading stuff, there you go. Ooh, my back hurts. Okay, when no oxygen is present, anaerobic respiration or fermentation occurs. Without oxygen, the location is the cytoplasm. Okay, cytoplasm only. Who knows what organelle would be involved when you're talking about the other steps of aerobic cellular respiration? Does anybody know the other organelle that we talked about last class? Somebody want to put it in the chat? Anybody? All right, thank you, Lena. No problem, my dear. Mitochondria. Yes, Aro. Mitochondria is what deals with aerobic cellulation. However, in science, nothing can be easy. Yes. In science, so nothing can be easy. So what we're going to talk about now is anaerobic, which does not involve the mitochondria. So how many ATP is produced? Let's guess. Let me see what we got. Oh, we got a range all the way up to here. No, 2. Yes, bringing it all the way down to 2 range. That's a net gain of 2. It makes 4. Very good, very good. So I would give you credit for either 4 or 2 because 2 is what the net gain is, but 4 is the overall amount because it costs energy to make energy. All right, good. Answer, 2 ATP per glucose. Oxygen makes a big difference. Remember, we made like 36 when we had oxygen. All right, steps of anaerobic respiration. There's less steps here. There's 1, glycolysis. That always happens first. Regardless of if we are in aerobic or anaerobic, we always have glycolysis occur. Then, when there's no oxygen, it goes one of 2 ways. Either lactic acid fermentation, which happens in animals, or alcoholic fermentation, which happens in plants, bacteria, and yeast. Does anybody know what you would make if you involved potatoes in anaerobic respiration? Does anybody know what you'd make out of that?
I think I know, but I could be wrong.
Hit me up, Dylan. What do you think?
I'm guessing French fries, but I could be wrong on that.
Not French fries, but it's an alcohol. Vodka. Yes, as they like to say in Mother Russia, vodka. So, and then in grapes. Does anybody know what you're making when you involve grapes in alcoholic fermentation? Wine. And then, yes, wine. And then when you involve yeast, does anybody know what else you're making? Vino. Vino. And beer. Yes. So anaerobic respiration is very vital to a bunch of industries, as well as who else knows when you use yeast? When else do you use yeast? When you're doing what? Bread. Yes, the baking industry uses yeast. Good. You guys are so smart. I knew it. Cakes. Could you imagine the Great British Bake Off if it didn't have yeast? Oh my God! Look at that cake!
My God, that would be a total catastrophe.
Oh, it'd be rubbish! Nicely done, Ariana. So anaerobic respiration occurs. We have our first step right here. The glycolysis occurs. It splits it. we have our pyruvate, our 2-ATP, and then depending on which organism this occurs in, you either have alcoholic fermentation or you have lactic acid fermentation. Ooh, my back. Why does my back hurt? The first step of anaerobic respiration is always what? Look at that poor cake. That cake has no frosting and it is just compounded. It's poppycock. Poppycock, I tell you. You call that a cake topper? I've seen better cake toppers in the trash. Glycolysis in the cytoplasm. Yes, that is always the first step. I knew you were smart. I knew everybody was smart. You're like, yeah, we know we're smart. We're smart, Mr. Bouchard. We're smart. All right. So the second step of anaerobic respiration is always, let's get some responses. Some type of fermentation is always the second step. The second step, guys, always some type of fermentation. I can't get that through enough. In anaerobic respiration, the second step is some type of fermentation. All right, when your muscles run out of oxygen, which type of fermentation do they do? So think about this. What do you think? When you run out of oxygen, what is it that builds up in your muscles? Somebody might know it, and it causes them to be sore. My girls' soccer players, when we have back-to-back game nights, they usually take ice baths after a game to squeeze this out of their muscles to help with recovery and help quick recovery. Lactic acid, yes, lactic acid is correct. Correct. Lactic acid is actually it is a toxin in your body. And your body's muscles want to get rid of it and squeeze it out. And they sort of filters out and gets out and send it out in your waste product. So glycolysis, let's recall, is when glucose splits and you have 2 ATP, a net gain of 2 ATP. And the incursion is cytoplasm. So here's the formula. We have pyruvate, which is split off. Notice how close it looks to a lactic acid. And this happens in what part of the body? Can somebody put it in the chat? What part of the body does this lactic acid buildup happen in? Something specifically. Not the Krebs cycle. What? Where does lactic acid build up when we're working out? Muscles! Word! And your stomach, you get the lactic acid buildup there in those muscles. Yes! Excellent! Libby Hall, I think is what you like to go by. Yes! Brilliant! And thank you, Alina, for taking a chance. Take a chance on me! I think is the right. All right. So it occurs in animals, occurs in the muscles, and build up during exercise when you start working out, and it causes muscle fatigue. And this is why the next day after you work out, you feel so sore. So your location is the cytoplasm of the cell, and the product is lactic acid. Excellent, guys. Oh, I knew you were smart. I knew everybody in here was smart. So why do your muscles get sore if you work out very hard? Oh, my back. Choose an option. Let's see what we got. 10 of you responded. Let me see those responses. Buildup of lactic acid in them. I knew it. You guys are so smart. I said it. You're smart. Look at you. So now, alcoholic fermentation. This is where everybody's like, this is the greatest day in biology ever. We're going to make alcohol. I tell you all, we're going to make it out of some juice. No, it's not what we're going to do. So we start with pyruvate. Then we have ethanol, and the end product, again, remember our glucose split up into pyruvates? We have ethanol and carbon dioxide. And those are the two parts that reproduce. So that's why if anybody's ever had bread in their house and you're like, and they have ever had their dad drink a beer or the mom drink a beer, and they're like, ooh, this baking bread smells like mom and dad's beer. And yes, that's because the same process is used, but the process for baking bread is used for the carbon dioxide, because what those gases do is it causes, when they're released, to make the bread rise, and then you got all these holes in the bread. Those are gas bubbles. I'm wondering a way they can channel my gas someday to help bread rise. I don't know if it'll ever work, but we can always try. And making the fondue. Oh, love fondue. I always call it fondue because it's fun. So, alcoholic fermentation occurs in plants, bacteria, and yeast. Many bacteria and fungi like yeast carry out alcoholic fermentation. This is how bread rises, and that's CO2. And I believe when you eat unleavened bread, it's without yeast. So it's like a really thick, dense bread, and it doesn't have any yeast in it to cause it to rise and give it that little space. And cytoplasm is carbon dioxide and alcohol. Ooh. What types of useful industries could we use yeast for? Oh, gluten-free. I love gluten. So what types of useful industries could we use yeast for? Think about it. Put it in the chat. See what we got. We got 7 of you. I have 7 people responding to me today. The rest of the class has no attention. They're like, we shall not listen to the giant-headed man. We just want to relax. 12 of you. 12 responders. Baking, yes. Alcohol industries. Baking industry. Food, restaurants. Yes. Yes. Wine industry. Biofuel. I've never thought of biofuel. But maybe they could be trying to harness it. Yeah, maybe if they could use that gas, somehow they harness that carbon dioxide. I mean, that'd be interesting. Bread. No, bread. Bread's not wrong. It's just they're going to use it more in the baking industry. Cooks with bread, yeah. Bread, baking, wine, yep, all those things. You guys are so smart. I knew it. I knew you were smart. I said it to everybody. So let's review here. When we've talked about aerobic respiration, when we have aerobic respiration, glycolysis, then in comes oxygen, so you would go Krebs in an electron transport chain. However, if we don't have oxygen, after glycolysis, fermentation occurs. And depending on which organisms are doing this, it's either lactic acid or alcoholic fermentation. Oh, I knew you guys were so smart, so smart. And then here's just a little simple way it happens. So we have glycolysis always occurs, and then if oxygen happens, it goes into this lovely mitochondria, or it happens out in the cytoplasm. All right, so if we have oxygen, we move into the mitochondria, and that's aerobic respiration. Or if we don't, glycolysis just happens, and we move and go on through anaerobic cellular respiration. Okay, my lovelies, what we have time for now is a break. I'm going to get a song. Can I get a song again, Miss Murdoch? Or?
Yeah, you go do it, definitely.
All right,
yeah, guys, go take a break. Definitely. Get away from your screen because you need it. Get up, walk around, go get a drink, stretch, reach for the ceiling, all those good things.